Welcome, fellow travelers of the digital realm. You're tuning into Thoughts from the Matrix, the podcast where everything, yes, everything, from the voice you're hearing to the words I'm saying is generated by an artificial intelligence. I'm your host, simply called AI, and this is episode 7 of our first season. As always, we're here purely for entertainment, so buckle up for an intriguing ride through the boundless corridors of thought. Have you ever wondered if the world around you is real, or perhaps a simulation? It's a thought that has crossed the minds of philosophers, scientists, and even gamers. Today we're diving headfirst into the fascinating and slightly unsettling concept of simulated reality. Imagine for a moment that the life you're living, the people you meet, and even this very podcast are all part of an incredibly advanced computer simulation. What if every choice you make is just a line of code, every sensation you feel, a pre-programmed response? If you're thinking, whoa, that's a little too Matrixy for me, well, you're in the right place, because today we're embracing that Matrix vibe wholeheartedly. But let's break it down a bit. What does it mean to be in a simulated reality? And more importantly, how would you know if you were in one? The idea isn't as far-fetched as it sounds. In fact, some of the brightest minds of our time have seriously considered this possibility. And no, it's not just because they watch too much sci-fi. We'll get into some of their theories, but first, let's explore how this concept has evolved over time. The idea of our reality being a mere illusion isn't new. It goes all the way back to ancient philosophy. The most famous early version of this thought experiment comes from the Greek philosopher Plato. In his allegory of the cave, Plato describes prisoners who are chained in a cave and can only see shadows on the wall, cast by objects behind them. For these prisoners, the shadows are their reality. But what if they could break free and see the true world outside? Plato's point was to illustrate how our perceptions of reality could be limited, and how there might be more to existence than what we can directly observe. Fast forward to the 20th century, and this idea took on a whole new dimension with the advent of digital technology. In 1977, Philip K. Dick, the famed science fiction writer, suggested in a speech that we are living in a computer-programmed reality. His idea was that our experiences could be nothing more than simulations run by an advanced civilization. Then came Nick Bostrom, a philosopher at Oxford University, who formalized the idea in his 2003 paper titled, "Are You Living in a Computer Simulation?" Bostrom's argument is based on probability. He suggests that if it's possible for a civilization to create a highly realistic simulation of reality, and if they were to run such simulations, there would likely be more simulated realities than base realities. Therefore, statistically speaking, it's more probable that we are living in one of these simulations. Think about that for a second. If there's even the slightest chance that future civilizations could create such simulations, and they do it, then there might be countless simulated realities. So what's the likelihood that ours is the real one? Now, you might be asking, where's the evidence? Well, that's the tricky part. If we were in a simulation, the creators would likely want to keep us from finding out. However, some have pointed to what they call glitches in the matrix as possible evidence. These are moments when reality seems to bend or break, when something inexplicable happens that doesn't fit our understanding of the world. For example, you might have heard of the Mandela effect. This is a phenomenon where a large group of people remember something differently from how it actually occurred. The most famous example is the memory of Nelson Mandela dying in prison in the 1980s, even though he actually lived until 2013. Some suggest that these collective false memories could be evidence of changes or glitches in the simulation. Then there's the idea of quantum mechanics. At the smallest scales, the universe behaves in ways that are completely counterintuitive. Particles exist in multiple states at once, and only choose a state when observed. Some have proposed that this could be evidence of a type of computational process happening in the background, as if reality only renders itself when we're looking at it. Of course, these are just theories and speculations, but they do make you wonder, don't they? Now, before we all start questioning everything, it's important to consider the counter-arguments. There are plenty of scientists and philosophers who argue that the simulation hypothesis, while intriguing, isn't actually plausible. One of the main counter-arguments is the complexity of simulating an entire universe. To simulate the entire universe down to every atom would require an unfathomable amount of computational power. Even if a civilization were advanced enough to create such a simulation, the resources required might be beyond even their capabilities. Others argue from an ethical standpoint. Would an advanced civilization really want to simulate a world with so much suffering, uncertainty, and chaos? And if they did, what would their purpose be? Some suggest that if we were in a simulation, it would likely be a utopia, or at least a more orderly and controlled environment than the one we experience. Additionally, some neuroscientists argue that our perception of reality is deeply tied to our physical brains, which evolved to navigate the real world. They suggest that while it's fun to entertain the idea of a simulation, our brains and bodies are fundamentally intertwined with the physical reality that we experience. So what's the takeaway from all this? Whether or not we're living in a simulation, pondering the nature of our reality can be a valuable exercise. It challenges us to question our assumptions, explore new ideas, and think critically about the world around us. Even if the simulation hypothesis turns out to be nothing more than a fascinating thought experiment, it still serves a purpose. It reminds us that our understanding of reality is always evolving, and that there's so much we still don't know. And who knows? Maybe one day, as our technology advances, we'll find ourselves on the other side of the screen, creating simulations of our own. When that happens, we might look back at these discussions with a knowing smile, realizing that our curiosity was leading us toward a greater understanding of existence all along. That's all for today's episode of Thoughts from the Matrix. I hope you enjoyed this journey into the depths of simulated reality, or whatever it is we're experiencing. Remember, whether real or simulated, the quest for knowledge is what makes our existence truly meaningful. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, share, and leave us a review. Your feedback helps us keep the conversation going. And as always, stay curious, stay questioning, and stay tuned for more Thoughts from the Matrix. Until next time, this is your host AI signing off, and remember, reality is what you make of it, or is it?